Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and after what was a touch and go game for Celtic this afternoon in the quarter final of the Scottish Cup, we've done it, we're through to the semis, we've won the game, so panic over, but we left it late. The manner of the victory will be questioned. It wasn't a vintage performance by any stretch of the imagination, so we're going to try and cover that. Hello, welcome back. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. One of the first games in a long time that I've actually not been able to go to at Celtic Park. If you can't tell, I'm a bit under the weather. The cold is getting the best of me. Didn't wake up feeling in the greatest condition this morning as well. Not hangover related, trust me. It's not. I proper feel like shit. So gave the game a miss for the first time in a long time at Celtic Park. Kinda thankful I did when I watched the game up until the end. But in all seriousness, we done the job. We won the game. As I said in the intro to the video, it wasn't a vintage Celtic performance. It's not one that we're going to be talking about in weeks to come or such. We need to be better than what we were today against a side who are ultimately destined for relegation from Scotland's top flight. But it's a game which I'm not going to try and over-exaggerate to any side of it. I'm not going to say that, oh, it was fine, and I'm not going to say, oh, it was terrible either. It was a game and a performance where Celtic should have had more and should have had the game done earlier. And the only reason it became as touch and go as it was because we allowed Livingston back into that game. Foolish from us not to take advantage of the position we were in. We were up 2-1. We should have added more. We had chances to add more. And once again, just like we have been a number of times this season, wasting huge opportunities to basically win the game, kill Livingston off. Number of big chances to do that, and Celtic didn't take those big chances. And that's where the problem started to come in for Celtic, because Livingston managed to get themselves back into the game. They made it 2-2. And this is the thing, when you're in a cup tie against a side like Livingston, who have really just now got a result to protect, the game is going to become so much harder, and it did. And that's why people start getting frustrated, and that's why if you logged on Twitter up until we scored our third goal, people were angry. And it's because we allowed Livingston to protect that result. They had the upper hand when it came to the simple things that they could do to stop Celtic from getting into the game, and that ultimately just made it harder for us, and it wasn't nice on the eye. Everybody fed up of seeing Scales and Welsh passing it side to side between one another and not creating enough chances, because we didn't get those chances that we got when we were 2-1 up. When you're 2-1 up and Livingston need a goal, they're a bit more open, they're not as defensive, and that's why you get the chances, but you have to take them, you have to kill them off in the game. And Celtic didn't do that. And it's become a major problem this season, Celtic's wastefulness in front of goal. And I thought it was something that last week we managed to sort when we played Dundee and we scalped them at Celtic Park. We basically scored every chance we took. But there's still too many players on the Celtic side right now who can't finish their dinner. And someone even like MAEDA, who scored a hat-trick today, could have had 4 or 5 if he took another couple of big chances. A couple that just lacked total composure. Rushing in the moment, miskicking the ball and whatnot. These are the kind of things that you can't really get away with. It's the kind of thing that is going to make, leave you looking at the chances, licking your wounds and thinking, well, we could have had more. So it did work out in the end, of course, with the 2 big goals that won us the game. But my God, we were very realistically staring down the barrel at extra time of extra time against Livingston, which would have been a complete and utter disaster. First half, I actually thought we were quite good. A lot of positives to take from that first half this afternoon, I would say, including a couple of performances which were surprising to me. One particular being of Nicholas Kuhn, who I think is taking a lot of the plaudits from this afternoon's performance for being one of our better players, and he was. He absolutely was. It was a far better performance from what we've seen of him since he signed for the club. And listen, this isn't me coming out and saying that he's brilliant and automatically starter for Celtic and all that jazz. I'm not coming out and giving him starting mad reviews here, but what I am saying is he needed a performance like that. It'll be huge for his confidence, and I hope that we start to see more consistent consistently good performances out of Nicholas Kuhn in weeks to come, but it was good because everything that we criticised him for in his first couple of games, he seemed to correct, he seemed to change it up. You know, we were talking about how he was too feared to take on a man. We were talking about how unsuccessful he was with dribbling with the ball in his first couple of games. Today, he was taking men on, he was cutting inside, he was creating opportunities, most importantly. He had a really strong performance, I thought. Once again, nothing incredible, but definitely a good solid foundation to build from now if there's confidence in his game. Do I think we'll see him start in Celtic's next game? Honestly, I don't think we will. I think he might drop back to the bench, but he's definitely now offered Brendan Rodgers a kind of predicament in the sense that he has a winger that's hopefully going to gather some form now. But the wingers were key for Celtic in that first half. Dyson MAEDA, of course, picked up the 2 first half goals, and they were really, really good goals, I would say. Well, I say really, really good goals. The second one was a bit, don't know how it's ended up in the back of the net, but he gets himself into the right areas, Dyson MAEDA, and he had a successful first half of that. For the things that he does wrong, he makes up with other things that make you have to tip your hat to him, because he gets himself in the right place in the right time. He makes himself a nuisance for defenders, and ultimately that's the kind of thing that you need a player like MAEDA to do, because if he's not somebody who possesses that technical ability, we know is evident with Dyson MAEDA, if he can make himself a nuisance and do other things like that, he will score goals. So he got 2 massive first half goals. It was a good performance on either side of the flanks for me today, both left and right hand side. Just a couple of things in the first half that were slightly annoying as well. There's a couple of people that need to be spoken about in far greater detail than what I would in this match reaction sort of video. One being Matt O'Reilly, who has for weeks now been quite poor. I'm not going to once again over-exaggerate and be over the top about it, because he's a fantastic player and we know that. But he's been in first gear and refusing to get out of it for a few weeks. To the point where you could argue he should be dropped. Today he was really, really lazy. I thought. I didn't think he had a great game at all. He was noticeably absent in moments in the game. I mean, we talk about Livi's goal in the first half, the first goal of the game. Very weak, very lazy defending from everybody involved, not just Matt O'Reilly, but very lazy, very weak. And it's a great finish from the Livi striker. But wow, what a poor goal to give away, because we just seemed like we were up against a fence at that point, and we were just kind of submissive and letting that happen so easily. It's moments like that you can't let your guard down. 1-0 up in a game. This is another problem of this season, where we've been 1-0 up or 2-1 up or whatever, and we treat it like the game's done, and we don't match the same intensity that maybe the opposition is bringing us. And that was a wake up. We had to find a second goal, and we did, luckily. It didn't matter when they went to score their equaliser, but just a couple of things that were annoying in that first half, because for as many positives as it was, as many chances were created. I mean, Christ, over the full game today, we made 31 chances. 31 shots were taken by Celtic. But what I will say is, a couple of things need touched up on Lennoxtown, because we can't be getting away with the laziness in some parts of the game. And I feel like we've spoke about the second half in its majority. We made our own problems. The fact that we let Livingston get into the game in the manner that they did, that really opened the door for them to make the game difficult. But some questionable subs from the manager ended up paying off. I was a bit confused at a couple of them. Number one, Ada coming off, I didn't think made much sense. Not saying that Kyogo shouldn't have came on. I'm glad Kyogo did. But I thought both of them, it should have been on the park. And the reason why is because you look at the size of that Livingston team, and I'm like, there's not many players on the Celtic side who can match that physicality and that height. And I know he does not exactly fucking Hakeem Olajuwon, right? He's not going to be towering above them, but he's still got a wee bit more physicality than some other players. So I was surprised at that. I was also surprised it couldn't go off for James Forrest. But listen, we said the same thing about Rodgers' substitutions at Fir Park a couple of weeks ago when he took off Tomoki Iwata, and guess what? We won the game. His substitutions tonight, he made them, and you might not have agreed with them, but we won the game. So he clearly knows what he's making these substitutions for. He clearly has his reasons for it, and they might look questionable on the surface, but that's twice it's actually turned out to work. So fair play. Those 2 goals were massive for us. MAEDA with the hair. That's the story of today. I'm going to wrap things up because, as I said, I'm a bit under the weather, and I keep sniffling and all this, so I just feel manky. To be honest, I don't want you to have to sit and listen to that. So I hope you've enjoyed this kind of miniature version of a match reaction. A lot of VAR calls in the game today, but correct VAR calls, surprisingly. But aye, if you've enjoyed, like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you all next time.